The boy in his school uniform presses a hand to the window as petals drift around him, vowing he will never forget Suzune's gaze. A vertical panel announces the 59th generation entrance ceremony, setting the stage for his new high school life. Standing in the line of new students at the ceremony, he recalls that even if he did not understand then, Suzune had been his first love. Blushing with a small smile, he wonders how Suzu is now and what kind of person she has become. Suddenly startled, he calls for her to wait, his drifting thoughts jolted back to the present. A glamorous blonde gal with a confident smile and hammer-like gavel strides in, her overwhelming presence shocking the students. As her stocking-covered leg comes down, she teasingly remarks that he is not allowed to peep at her like that. Tugging down her skirt and adjusting her clothes, she coolly explains that what he did is actually a real crime. The panicked boy yelps as her heel pins his fallen smartphone, and she points out that personal phones are not allowed. She lifts the crushed device with a crunch, emphasizing how completely she has destroyed his phone. Smiling with mixed warning and kindness, she tells him to be more careful next time. Turning to disperse the crowd, she cheerfully says there is nothing to see, while another student screams inside that she has no mercy. She brightly introduces herself as Nekagami Suzu, the gym teacher, and says she is pleased to meet them. In the gym, the boy stares at the stage in shock, recognizing her voice from memory as he mutters in confusion. Later in a classroom, Suzu stands at the blackboard with pointer in hand, telling everyone to pay attention. The boy's eyes narrow as he silently wonders how things ended up like this. Watching Suzu confidently teach, he thinks Suzune has become an intimidating gal-like adult and even his homeroom teacher. Remembering the gentle girl she was, he marvels that she changed so much into a tan gal and that she even became a teacher. When they finally pass in the hallway, he stiffly notes how awkward the moment feels. Flustered and blushing, he nervously calls out to her as Suzune. She simply pats his shoulder and walks on smiling, leaving him thinking miserably that she has forgotten him. Clutching his face, he fumes that she has become a full-blown gal and wonders if she forgot how much he once loved her. His expression softens as he admits years have passed and wonders what he can even do now. Watching Suzu address the class with a professional smile, he thinks the person before him is no longer the Suzune he loved, while she invites questions. As another person eagerly raises his hand calling to instructor, the protagonist slumps, thinking he must be the only one feeling this conflicted and foolish. His excitable classmate loudly asks how many men she has conquered, shocking everyone. The protagonist explodes at his friend in his head, saying he should never ask that and threatening to take down the idiot. Turning aside with a troubled blush, he admits he does not want to hear Suzu talk about other men at all. Suzu fixes the noisy boys with a dark glare and coldly asks what they just said. The trio freeze in terror under her aura before she starts to answer more calmly. With a thoughtful pose and serious eyes, Suzu admits there were many people who wanted to be with her. The class erupts in jealous shouting, while the protagonist stands stunned by how popular she has become. Hands on position, Suzu says it is natural since Suzune is beautiful, adding she will tell the boy's mother what he asked, making him panic and imagine what she has gone through. Beneath his desk, his fists clench as he thinks about how long he has clung to those old memories. With a strained smile and sweat, he accuses her in his heart of being the one enjoying herself all this time. A flashback shows him as a child shouting that he hates her, revealing the painful rejection between them. In the present, he asks himself why he is acting like this when he was the one who rejected her. From the ceiling, narration notes that someone calls to Sensei saying Inezuku has collapsed, drawing attention to the commotion. In the infirmary, he slowly opens his eyes against a soft blur, murmuring faintly as he wakes. He then realizes, blushing fiercely, that his head is resting on Suzu's figure as she lies beside him and cradles him. He jerks upright in panic, screaming inside that they slept together and flusteredly apologizing. Suzu yawns and covers her mouth, saying she must have fallen asleep without noticing. Sitting by his bed, she says the nurse told her he has no fever and is just exhausted and sleep-deprived, asking if he was really dozing in class. He remembers training on a pull-up bar under the night sky, thinking he stayed up late exercising because of a strange premonition. Looking away with a blush, he admits to himself he may have done it because of her. Suzu once confronted him, asking if he was working out so late just to keep up with her, wondering if it was for her sake. Clenching his hand, he insists inwardly it was only vanity and she was just doing her duty as a teacher. Turning her back and crossing her arms, she listens as he thinks bitterly that the kind, gentle Suzuni he loved is gone. She announces she is heading out and wishes him a safe trip home, while he stammers an awkward reply. His gaze falls to the small, sparkling pendant at her figure, catching the light as she turns. That glint makes his eyes widen and heart race, as if some important memory has surfaced. As she reaches for the door, he suddenly calls for her to wait, desperate not to let the moment slip away. Sitting up, he asks in a trembling voice if she still remembers him, calling her Suzuni in his thoughts. She pauses and clutches the pendant at her throat, her eyes widening at the weight of his words. Flustered and blushing, he quickly apologizes and says it is nothing, while she silently studies the pendant. Looking down, he reflects that her expression just then was tense to read and left him unsettled. From his view on the bed, he watches her skirt and stockings as she stands, and she comments that this situation is not good for him. Climbing onto the bed and leaning near, Suzu reminds him that at school she is not Suzuni. Positioning herself near him, she firmly tells him that here she is Nekagami-sensei, making the boundary clear. Looking down with a gentle but serious smile, she asks if he understands, stressing her role as his teacher. She then turns to leave the infirmary, casually saying she is going while he stares after her in shock. Left alone, he kicks and flails on the bed in frustration, screaming inwardly as the chapter ominously promises the story will continue. On another day in the gym, Suzu leads stretching as a girl bends forward counting, while she supervises the class. Beaming, Suzu encourages everyone to take careful notes of this warm-up. Nearby, boys whisper that Nekagami-sensei's figure is incredible, with the protagonist standing awkwardly beside them. One pervy friend crouches and wonders aloud what he was trying to see, his curiosity getting the better of him. A basketball suddenly slams into his backside, sending him flying with a cry. Holding the ball and smiling, Suzu explains they also need to practice dropping a ball on their stomachs for training, while the boys mutter she used teaching as an excuse to punish fools and has no mercy. Standing between classmates, the protagonist warns everyone not to look at Suzuni that way. Blushing and glancing aside, he admits to himself that Suzuni also has her own issues. Raising her arms with a big smile at the whiteboard, Suzu divides the class, telling boys to play dodgeball while girls do exercises with her, inviting any boys who want to join. Watching her crop top right up, he flushes and mentally protests that he cannot believe she shows her midsection, wondering if she really does not care what boys think. As he turns at someone calling his name, he reacts in confusion to being addressed. A ball smashes into his face, knocking him back as he lets out a strangled yell. Sitting on the floor holding his nose, he groans while another person calls that instructor, Inezuku, has fallen again, and someone else exclaims. Looking down with concern, Suzu asks if he is all right, while he also notes the low angle of his view. She quickly kneels and covers his mouth, telling others there is no need to crowd while he insists he is fine. With one hand gently cupping his face, she reassures him that his nose is not broken and he is okay. Leaning near to his ear, she murmurs that she wonders what he had been staring at earlier. Walking away playfully, she says that as punishment for not concentrating, he must come to the training room after class. Later in the training room, he admits he has never been there and wonders what they do, while Suzu readies a dumbbell. From behind, she starts to pull up her sweatshirt, as he recalls she called this meeting a punishment. As her toned stomach is revealed, he nervously speculates this might be some remedial lesson or something. When she drops the sweatshirt to reveal a training top, he turns beet red and demands to know why she is changing clothes. Smiling in her training outfit, she says it is only gym wear and nothing more, while he stays flustered. Still embarrassed, he insists she cannot wear such flashy clothes at school in front of boys, making her tilt her head in mild surprise. She then leans forward with a playful grin, asking if he also wants a look, leaning toward him as he recoils. Red-faced, he protests that there is nothing amazing, and he does not have to say anything like that. As she turns away to prepare, Suzu comments that when watching him earlier his body seemed a bit stiff, prompting his awkward agreement. Sprawled on a mat and stretching, she cheerfully explains that is why they will have a special stretching class, while he panics that she brought him here just for this. In a small panel, he chuckles that he thought something was seriously wrong and wonders what it could be, while she lightly replies that she knows, right? Her face fills the frame as she explains the first step of falling forward to stretch the hamstrings. The view drops to her sweating upper figure as she leans down, saying the goal is to loosen moving muscles and warning static stretching only tightens them. Standing close and guiding his posture, she instructs him to touch his toes with the opposite hand, making him blush and stammer. Overwhelmed, he screams inside that he cannot look at her like this, thinking Suzune is far too unaware of her own presence. Raising her arms high, Suzu calls his attention back to her demonstration, telling him to watch, and he hurriedly apologizes. As she stretches with a soft sound and small marks, he insists mentally that this is absolutely impossible for him to handle. Elsewhere in the room, another student is told to try again next time and answers with a resigned understood. Behind the boy on a bench, Suzu presses gently against his back and encourages his leg stretches, praising that this is good. Blushing as his heart races, he thinks that rather than stretching, he is far more aware of the warmth of Suzune's hands. Pressed against his back, Suzu urges him to keep it up with a playful heart in her tone while he panics inside, wondering if her constant appearance is not blatantly standing very near. As she leans in close from behind and calmly tells him to exhale during the movement, he stares ahead in flustered disbelief and internally cries out, asking if Suzune really has not noticed what she is doing to him. His vision drops to the tent in his shorts as he realizes with horror that this is bad and that all his blood has rushed straight to his composure. Startled and sweating, he yelps when she smoothly tells him to lie on his back now, her casual instruction only heightening his embarrassment. Standing near him with a bright smile, Suzu explains that this will be an exercise for his hip flexors, while he stares up at her in shock and repeats the words in a frantic daze. She lifts and rotates his bent leg, telling him to turn his knee as part of the stretch, and he cries out in disbelief at how awkward the position feels. As she rhythmically moves his leg, he trembles and gasps that this is bad, while Suzu cheerfully notes that his hip joint is surprisingly loose, and then with a playful heart that he has become extremely tense. Leaning closer with a calm smile, Suzu asks how it feels and gently suggests that it actually seems effective, does it not, making his mind spin. His face turns bright red and his mouth hangs open in a shaken cry as his heart races, unable to handle the overwhelming tension and embarrassment. Overwhelmed, he suddenly bolts upright and dashes away, shouting that he has to go while the other boy and Suzu watch him flee in utter confusion. Later, he clutches his head and mentally screams at Suzune, demanding to know what she thinks she is doing to him. Suzu gives a small, secretive smile, clearly amused by his reaction and fully aware of how much she has flustered him. Time skips to the end of lunch break as he yelps in surprise, realizing he had been waiting for it to calm down and the entire lunch period has already ended. His thoughts swirl with vivid images of Suzu standing over him during stretching, her instructions echoing while small marks surround his mortified figure. Walking through the hallway holding his head, he frets that all he can think about now is the gym and those stretches, anxiously wondering what he will do if the only videos he can ever watch from now on are gal-type women. Slumped over his desk in class, he broods that this is no way to treat a student, and wonders what on earth Suzune is thinking as the new chapter titled Special Training with Gal Sensei begins. A classmate calls out to him, making Nezu jolt and look over nervously as his friend addresses him by name. Two grinning boys, Samejima and Kami, ask if he is close with Nekagami-sensei, while he stiffens in alarm and blurts a startled response. One of them says they saw him and Suzu entering the training room together, and Nezu freezes, realizing with dread that they had been seen. Trying to act casual with a forced little pout, he claims that they are actually good friends and that she treats him with a certain affection, which makes his friends react in amazed disbelief. The boys excitedly complain that this is unfair and insist they should go to Sensei right now, while someone off-panel demands to know what they are planning. In the PE teacher's office, Suzu calmly explains that Nezu's body had seemed so stiff she thought he might get hurt, so she was simply teaching him how to stretch, brushing off their suspicions. Hearing this, the two boys eagerly ask if she could do the same thing with them, and she responds with an easy smile, asking if they really want her to, which they enthusiastically affirm. Watching this exchange with a sour expression, Nezu thinks uneasily whether she is really going to go through with it for them too. Suzu cheerfully rolls up her sleeve and tells them to lay out the mats over there, ready to begin another round of stretches. Sitting on the floor in front of her, the boys strain forward as Suzu instructs them to go only as far as it does not hurt and to breathe naturally, one of them groaning that it aches as another murmurs an impressed "oh." One of the boys beams and exclaims that it feels amazing, while in the corner Nezu watches with a gloomy squirming expression, unable to enjoy the scene at all. Hands on her position, Suzu turns toward Nezu and calls out brightly, asking why he does not join as well, making him stiffen. He looks away with a small pout and mumbles that he already did it the other day, while Suzu simply studies him with a quiet, unreadable gaze. Thinking to himself, he admits that despite trying to act composed, he cannot help feeling annoyed by all of this. Suzu eventually claps her hands and says that is enough for today, while he reminds himself that Suzuni is everyone's teacher, not just his. Later, he sits alone at his desk doing classroom chores as sunlight isolates him, the weight of these thoughts clearly lingering. Walking down the hallway with his friends, they reassure him that he is not the only one who gets special treatment and tell him not to misunderstand, while Nezu blushes and grits his teeth in frustration. He snaps back that it is not a misunderstanding, insisting heatedly that something more happened between him and Suzuni. Flustered yet self-satisfied, he mutters that he experienced far more than they did, and that this means he had actually been right about her attention toward him. From behind, he muses that maybe it is also true that Suzuni really loves teaching itself, her enthusiasm shining through regardless of who the student is. Watching his own handwrite, he wonders if perhaps she truly is a teacher who genuinely cares about her students' well-being. Later, as he peeks into the gym, he calls out Suzu-sensei's name and she turns in surprise, remarking that he is still here after school. His eyes drift to her figure where sweat has soaked her shirt, and he notes in a daze that Suzuni is drenched and catching her breath from training. She looks at him gently and asks if he is filling out the duty record, her tone casual and teacher-like. Close up on his flustered face, he realizes that they are alone in the quiet gym and admits inwardly that he cannot help thinking about that fact. Leaning closer with a soft murmur, Suzu says it is almost done, her damp shirt from training as his heart thunders. As she walks toward the door, she tells him that when he finishes he should drop the record off in the staff room, leaving him blinking and confused with a startled exclamation. Acting on impulse, he jumps up from his seat and calls out for Suzuni to wait, desperation slipping into his voice. Realizing he has addressed her as Suzuni again, he blushes furiously while she stops, and after a pause replies with a quiet questioning hum. Face burning, he demands to know why she also gave those same stretches to the other boys, clearly hurt that the experience was not just between them. She repeats his question in confusion, making him realize how blunt he sounded and adding to his embarrassment. His heart hammers as he thinks in panic that he has really put his foot in it this time, and wonders how he could have possibly asked her something like that. When she calmly asks what exactly is wrong with that, he blurts out in flustered surprise, unsure how to answer. Suzu suddenly steps in close, pinning him against the wall with her arm and asking in a low voice what he means by that, their bodies only inches apart in the dim light. With only her mouth visible, she explains that as a proper teacher she is supposed to treat the other boys and him equally, and she believes it is only fair to do so. Her eyes gleam teasingly as she asks if he had really thought she was only for him, the implication making his heart lurch. He bursts out that this is not true at all, his face blazing as he frantically denies harboring such possessive thoughts. She smiles faintly in the shadows and reminds him that she is the teacher of everyone, subtly re-establishing that boundary. Noticing his stiff posture, she gently comments that he has gotten a bit rigid again, has he not, while he freezes in startled confusion. With a mischievous glint, she remarks that she cannot believe how big he already is in a situation like this, and chuckles that he is just like an eager little puppy, making him stammer at being compared to a dog. Bringing her lips close to his ear, she tells him he no longer has to hold back and pointedly asks whether he does not always relieve himself anyway, while he squeaks out a panicked demand about what she means. As his body reacts to her legs brushing him, he gasps that he is being softly caressed by her legs, and she calmly says there is nothing wrong with masturbation and that he should know that. Her eye glints seriously as she explains that old semen builds up in the posture, so it is actually healthy to release it at least once a week, and that it would be even better if it were through sex. Moving near with a pounding heart sound, she warns him not to grip too tense and instructs him to be gentle with his penis, telling him to listen carefully to what she is about to say. With a sultry smile, Suzu tells him that when he gets home he must masturbate properly, her playful heart turning the order into something intoxicating. The bell rings and she abruptly steps back, saying she has to return to the staff room while he stares in stunned shock and sputters a confused protest. Holding the record book aloft as she walks away, she calls that she will take the register herself, leaving him to utter a small defeated response. Left alone, he trembles and wonders if that was really all then, cheeks aflame as he finally shouts internally that he is going home. A box of tissues on a table explodes with flying sheets as narration notes Riley that on that day he set a brand new personal record. Later, a new scene opens with Samejima reading an article that claims women of S-class type have extremely sensitive nipples, his stunned face filling the panel. Hearing this, the two other boys blink and repeat the word nipples in disbelief, before Samejima eagerly affirms that yes, they are supposed to be very sensitive. Eyes sparkling with wicked curiosity, Samejima wonders if those rumors are true and urges that they test it out, while another friend hesitantly asks how they would even do that. Nezu, sweating and blushing, thinks that the term S-class woman sounds pretty rude and inappropriate, even as the idea gnaws at him. He then steps forward with a determined expression, calling Samejima's name and silently building up his resolve. Pointing at his own figure and grinning boldly, he declares that they should see whether the rumor is real and confidently tells them to leave the task in his hands. The narration cuts to the next day in the PE teacher's office, setting the stage for his reckless plan. Inside a bag he has prepared, toy handcuffs and tickling tools rattle together as he thinks that any gadget good for making someone squeal will do, and that this is everything he needs. Sweating nervously but smirking, he reflects that he is usually the one who ends up attacked, yet this time he intends to make Suzune scream instead. Opening the office door, he finds Suzu at her computer, and she turns to ask casually what is going on, unaware of his scheme. Forcing an easy smile, he says he was just wondering what she was doing, while narration explains that his first step is to start a friendly conversation so she will let her guard down. The laptop screen shows a Medub window, and Suzu explains that she has been watching Medub while eating, prompting his shocked thought that this is what she calls working. From behind, she clarifies that it is actually a strength training video, basically muscle training, and he mutters that he never knew teachers spent their breaks like this. With a casual flick of her hand, she tells him she is busy watching and that he should go play with his friends, while he reacts with a startled shout. Seeing how focused she is on the video, he realizes this is strangely convenient, and notes that she is concentrating so tense on the screen she might not notice what he does. Staring at her back as she sits in the chair, he thinks hungrily that there is so much he could do to her in this state without her noticing. A sinister smile on his shadowed face, he quietly pulls out the toy handcuffs, steeling himself to finally spring the trap. Just as he reaches forward, something slips from his bag and clatters loudly to the floor, making him and Suzu both cry out in surprise. Flustered, he begins to stammer an explanation while in the foreground the dangling handcuffs swing ominously, Suzu staring at them in stunned silence and asking what exactly this is, then darkly suggesting he better not be about to say what she thinks. Standing in her open jacket and training top, Suzu holds up the cuffs with a stern expression and asks if he had planned to play some kind of prank on her with these. Head bowed, he admits defeat and apologizes, saying he is sorry for what he tried to do. In response, Suzu pulls a chair forward and orders him to sit there, her tone leaving no room for argument. Nervous and sweating, he answers that he will and wonders anxiously what she intends to do to him now. A moment later, he screams as a blindfold covers his eyes, plunging him into darkness and heightening his fear. Metal clicks shut around his wrists as she cuffs his hands to the chair, binding the would-be prankster instead. She then roughly hauls him up against her, yanking his shirt open as he yelps, completely at her mercy. With her eyes hidden in shadow and a faint chuckle, she remarks that he sounded just like a girl when he squealed, while a sharp instrument glints ominously in her hand. Looming over his blindfolded form, Suzu notes that he seems to have brought quite a lot with him and demands to know what he was planning to do with all of it, making him tremble. He whimpers that he cannot see anything and that the uncertainty is making him even more nervous as she stands close enough for him to feel her presence. Her fingers slip under his shirt and tease his bare stomach as she warns that she will do more of this if he is not honest with her, his startled cry betraying how sensitive he is. Blushing furiously beneath the blindfold, he confesses that a friend told him S-class women supposedly have very sensitive nipples, implying he had wanted to test that on her. Suzu hums thoughtfully and asks if he had wanted to put her to the test, and he shamefacedly admits that yes, that had been his intention. A brush suddenly presses against a nipple with a wet noise as she repeats the word nipples and he shrieks, his whole body jolting at the stimulation. She draws the brush away and quietly muses that it seems she will have to give him something, the playful threat hanging in the air. Licking the tip of the brush with a languid, distracting gaze, Suzu declares that she must give this naughty boy a proper lesson, her voice low and dangerous as the scene fades. Blindfolded and blushing, Nezu jolts with alarm as Suzu's stimulation suddenly stops, and he cries out in confusion, unsure what is happening now. As Suzu's body presses close, she coolly asks if he had planned to toy with her figure like this, while his head arches back with a strained sound under her unseen touch. Squirming and sweating beneath the blindfold, he panics that whatever she is rubbing against him feels soaking wet and embarrassingly slick. Bent over and trembling, he gasps that he cannot take any more and thinks he is about to go crazy from the relentless stimulation. Her shadowed figure leans in as she says she will stop if he apologizes, calmly demanding that he say he is sorry while his body jolts at her words. Fingers lift the blindfold and Nezu opens one dazed eye, stammering as the darkness gives way to light. Suzu smiles down at him with a languid, satisfied look and says she thinks that is enough for today, her tone playful and affectionate. Still flushed and rattled, Nezu lets her guide him as she firmly tells him to get back to class, and he can only mumble weak agreement. Pausing at the door with his jacket, he glances back and mutters a stiff excuse to leave, eager to escape before he loses his composure again. Once he is gone, Suzu giggles and repeats S-class woman with amused disbelief, clearly entertained by the boy's silly classification. Out in the hallway, Nezu hugs the record book, heart pounding as he frets that if this becomes a habit it will be bad, yet he also feels oddly disappointed she stopped and scolds himself. Later in the classroom, he reacts with surprise when someone invites him to join the biology club, repeating the offer in a daze. His classmates explain that last year the club lost its members after the seniors graduated, so they decided to revive it as a free club and keep it relaxed this year. Nezu touches his cheek thoughtfully and admits he does like observing fish and other animals, starting to warm to the idea. Samejima instantly raises a hand and declares he is in too, prompting Nezu to grin and praise that attitude, glad not to be alone. Samejima then suggests that since the temporary advisor is unavailable, they should ask Nikogami-sensei to be their new club counselor, catching Nezu off guard. The boys get increasingly excited. One says he is planning extracurricular activities and insists Suzu can definitely help, while Nezu mutters that he understands. Nezu imagines Suzu in overalls explaining fieldwork and thinks eagerly that if he secures her as advisor, he will spend more time with Suzuni after school and see her on days off, even as she notes it is not exactly legal. Fired up, one boy shouts that they will leave that request to Nezu and urges him to go ask her, while Nezu gulps at the responsibility. Before he can answer, a cheerful girl's voice calls to them, making them all turn toward the doorway in mild surprise. Yuzuki strides in holding a snack bag, saying the cookies are delicious and inviting them to try some since there are plenty, while the boys' eyes widen at her confident, busty presence. As she walks past, the nearby guys whisper that Yuzuki's cookies sound amazing and marvel at how huge and striking her figure is, openly admiring how cute and hot she looks. Samejima grins goofily as he stuffs a cookie in his mouth, blurting that Yuzuki-chan's treats are great and that he will gladly eat as many as she gives. Moments later, he screams that it is insanely spicy as Yuzuki laughs, teasingly apologizing and admitting she might have mixed something up while her friends crack up. Yuzuki then turns to Nezu with a bright smile, confirms his name and offers him a cookie too, while he answers in baffled confusion. When he politely refuses and says no thanks, she tilts her head in surprise and asks what he just said, clearly unused to being turned down. Nezu averts his gaze and thinks that first he needs to talk to Suzuni about being club advisor, reaffirming his priority. He then excuses himself aloud, says he has to leave, and hurries off while Yuzuki watches him go with a small start of curiosity. Left standing there, Yuzuki stares after him and irritably wonders what is up with that guy, her expression turning slightly sour. When two other boys ask if she can share a cookie with them, she flatly lies that there are none left, hugging the bag even though it is clearly not empty. After classes, Nezu wanders the grounds calling for Suzuni, thinking she was not in the staff room and wondering where she went. He finally spots her relaxing on a bench, licking a popsicle and mentally cries out that there she is. Approaching timidly, he blushes and thinks the way she eats that ice pop is incredibly awkward, while noting the seat beside her is free. Mustering courage, he calls out to Nikogami-sensei and she looks up with the popsicle still in her mouth, answering with a questioning hum. Standing before the bench, he explains that he has decided to join the biology club, prompting her to ask casually what is going on. She repeats in mild surprise that he wants a new teacher to be their counselor, not yet realizing he is about to suggest her. Nezu, scratching his cheek shyly, explains that the other club members want her specifically as advisor and asks what she thinks, while she says she sees. Without hesitation, she takes another bite of popsicle and bluntly says she does not want to, that she has no interest at all, leaving him stunned. Flustered, Nezu stammers no, but trying to argue while his thoughts scramble for a way to convince her. She slowly licks the ice cream and suddenly asks what about him, addressing Nezu-kun directly and making him gulp. Leaning forward slightly, he blurts that he wants her to be with him, to be their advisor, his words tumbling out amid fluttering petals. Suzu then holds up her popsicle-smeared fingers and provocatively says that if he licks them clean she will be club counselor, offering the condition with a playful smile that makes him cry out. Nezu's eyes fix on the dripping fingers as he thinks in amazement that she wants him to suck them, the word lick echoing in his mind. Reasoning feverishly that this is just a way to secure her as advisor, he leans in and opens his mouth, determined to go through with it. Watching him from above with hooded eyes, Suzu murmurs that he is licking her desperately like a little puppy, clearly delighted by his eagerness. She lifts her wet hand and notes in mild surprise that it is dripping all the way down, breathing a little heavily as she looks at the mess he has made. From a distance, someone comments in surprise that she is skipping work again, glimpsing Suzu relaxed on the bench. Yuzuki approaches and greets Suzu politely, explaining that she is looking for Nezu-kun and asking if the teacher has seen him. Clutching something to her figure, Suzu replies nervously that no, she has not seen him at all, while her pounding heartbeat scrawls over the panel. Yuzuki frowns in real concern and vows that wherever he went, she will make sure he eats her cookies, determined not to let him escape her generosity. Suzu curtly reminds her that lunch break is over and tells her to head back to class, while Yuzuki reluctantly agrees with a sulky yes, yes. Once Yuzuki leaves, Suzu glances down at her figure and murmurs wryly that he still left something there to lick, implying his attentions were not finished. Back in the classroom another day, Yuzuki strikes a dramatic pose and playfully complains that deciding what to do is such a bother, while one boy begs for help. Meanwhile, outside the PE staff room, Nezu kneels anxiously and wonders why they are all on their knees before Yuzuki-san, feeling vaguely humiliated. Inside, Suzu sits cross-legged with a paper, explaining that clubs are supposed to have 5 members, but the biology club was formed under a rule that lets it operate with only 4. Samejima enthusiastically praises how sharp-sighted Sensei is, while Nezu stands beside him looking tense and conflicted. As Suzu's ample figure fills his view, Nezu's thoughts drift guiltily to how he had licked those figure the other day, admitting he cannot forget the sensation. From her desk, Suzu cheerily says they only need 1 more member now, while Nezu swallows and worries that even though he asked her to be advisor, he is not sure he can handle continuing like this. Samejima suddenly yanks Nezu down and says his head is too high, ordering him to bow properly as they crouch before Yuzuki. Facing the embarrassed girl, they plead with her to join the biology club, while she fidgets and stammers at being begged so earnestly. Nezu studies her lowered face and thinks that for her to bow like this, she must really want to join, while another boy comments that she seems eager to be in the club. Finally, Yuzuki puffs out her figure and announces that since they insist so much she will join, prompting relieved cheers from the boys. Nezu then exclaims that they should go tell Sensei right away, eyes sparkling at the chance to share the news. Trying to calm his racing heart, Nezu hurriedly says he will go clean the clubroom first, and the others agree, letting him dash off. He reaches an old separate building and remarks that he never knew the biology club had its own room, staring up at the rundown structure. Thinking back, he reflects that as soon as he heard they would go see her, he ran off without thinking, his face clouded with anticipation and dread. Sliding open the door, he admits that right now he cannot even look Suzune directly in the face, the memory of their last encounter burning too hot. Inside the clubroom, he finds Suzu lounging in a chair and she greets him casually, surprised it is Nezu-kun, while he blurts her name in shock. His mind races as he realizes that at this moment they are completely alone together again. Trying to play it cool, he explains that he is the only one who came to clean today, while Suzu asks where the rest of the club is. Looking over the cluttered shelves, she comments that the room is a bit messy, and Nezu, staring at the chaos, thinks incredulously that she calls this only a little. Suzu smiles gently and offers to lend a hand until the others arrive, and he stammers grateful thanks, touched by her kindness. As they move tables, she remarks that this will give her more places to slack off from work, and Nezu realizes this was her real motivation, though normally this kind of thing would just be a nuisance. While he works, Nezu's heart thumps and he wonders what exactly she expects him to do, admitting he has been avoiding her eyes. Suddenly he hears a ripping sound and turns with a startled cry of ouch, realizing something tore. He sees Suzu standing with one leg lifted, her tights split, and rushes over asking if she is okay while she notes matter-of-factly that they ripped. Kneeling, Nezu gapes at the blood seeping through her torn stockings and exclaims that she is bleeding just after buying those tights, insisting they have to treat it right away. Gathering his courage, he suggests they head to the infirmary, but his words trail as he braces for what that might entail. Suzu instead sits and says she hurt herself, asking with a sultry smile if he can disinfect the wound for her, clearly intending something more intimate. When she starts to lift her skirt, Nezu shouts in panic for her to stop and begs her not to, while she innocently asks why. With a mischievous tongue-out grin, she reminds him that the other day he was licking that ice cream so deliciously, subtly implying she expects the same for her injury. Nezu clenches his fist and wonders in frustration why she keeps doing this to him specifically, unable to understand why he is always the target. Suzu's lips curl in a faint smile as she asks if he wants a reason, saying that if he does then. Before she can continue, the infirmary curtain suddenly slides open, and someone calls that they have arrived with Nezu, breaking the tension. Nezu bursts through the curtain flustered, scolding his friends for being late as they apologize sheepishly. Suzu appears behind them with a bright smile and tells the boys to finish what they were doing, while Nezu gasps in relief and exclaims that Sensei was there. Later, trembling by the curtain, Nezu thinks that if the others had not come he has no idea what might have happened, while Samejima watches in confusion. Sometime after, Yuzuki appears in a skimpy bikini, fanning herself and sighing about the heat, proudly introducing herself as the very cute schoolgirl Yuzuki Maina. She narrates that the two boys scrubbing the pool are the peasants who knelt to beg her to join the biology club, and that today she is kindly helping them clean while telling them to keep staring at her. She boasts that she has over 3,000 Instagram followers and is constantly scouted, her adorableness even scaring her sometimes, as a teacher in glasses shows his phone with one of her swimsuit posts and asks for a moment. Yet as she narrows her eyes, she notes that even though she is the one giving them this swimsuit view, something about the situation bothers her. Watching Nezu focus on scrubbing instead of looking at her, she fumes internally, demanding to know why that jerk refuses to glance her way. From the poolside doorway, Suzu asks how things are going, making both Yuzuki and Nezu pause and look up. Standing with a fan in hand and her figure straining under a jacket, Suzu tells them to work faster or they will never finish during camp, laying out the schedule in a relaxed tone. Samejima blurts that Sensei is not wearing a swimsuit, and she casually replies that no, she is not, brushing off his astonishment. Walking away, she says she will be in the control room and they should come get her when done, while Nezu shouts understanding and Yuzuki sputters at the dismissal. Yuzuki glares after Suzu and rants that Nezu must be in love with that old witch if he will not even look at one of the century's prettiest girls in a swimsuit. She then admits to herself that it is common for boys his age to be attracted to older women, even though knowing that does not make it easier to accept. Determined not to lose, Yuzuki bounces forward in her bikini and vows that she will make Nezu-kun awaken to her using her figure, cheerfully calling to him in a sing-song voice. Her bold charge backfires when Nezu yelps in shock and apologizes frantically, leaving her briefly speechless as he recoils from her sudden approach. Yuzuki storms off, barking that he should just die while Nezu flinches, muttering that he has seriously upset her. His two friends stare in stunned amazement, saying he really shoved her while Nezu protests it was not on purpose. Later, Yuzuki lies in her sleeping bag with tears in her eyes, thinking she is sick of that bastard and that what he did felt horribly humiliating. Out in the corridor, Nezu clutches his racing heart and tells himself it was a huge incident and he needs to calm down. He knocks nervously on the control room door, calling to Sensei that they have finished their work. When no answer comes, he slowly opens the door, peeks into the dark room, and wonders if Sensei is not there. As he steps in and reaches towards some clothes, Suzu suddenly appears behind him with arms folded, asking in a low, suspicious voice what he thinks he is doing. Caught with her swimsuit in his hands, Nezu stammers while Suzu narrows her eyes and regards him with a cold, unreadable stare. Then she turns away with a cutting look over her shoulder and tells him flatly that he disgusts her, leaving him frozen in horror. That evening, the boys happily pore over pizza menus, joking that camp has basically turned into a pajama party and marveling that Sensei is even buying them pizza. Smiling brightly to hide his unease, Nezu says he will order the quattro pizza. His friends immediately shoot him down, saying he has no right after what happened and that he should be ashamed, leaving him yelping in protest. Trying to act normal, Nezu turns to Yuzuki and asks what pizza she wants, while a caption introduces their story as a romantic comedy with a voluptuous tan gal teacher. Yuzuki silently looks at her phone and does not respond, making Nezu jolt as he wonders in panic if she just ignored him. Remembering Suzu's harsh words, Nezu grimaces, thinking that while it was an accident he cannot say he did nothing wrong, and he admits he cannot really blame her for being disgusted as he feels his human rights fading away. Just then Suzu appears at the doorway and casually tells the boys good night, making Nezu look up in surprise. In a simple t-shirt dress, she explains she has come from the pool, which is filling tonight so they can enter it tomorrow. The boys cheer that it will be the best bath ever, while one notes it is still just a pool, and Suzu watches them with a faint, distant look. Later they gather around a tiny screen, one boy suggesting a game until the pizza arrives, Yuzuki saying the screen seems small, and Nezu off to the side fretting that she is ignoring him again. That night everyone lies in sleeping bags separated by curtains. Yuzuki sleeps soundly while one boy snores and thrashes. Nezu, however, lies awake remembering Suzu catching him with her swimsuit as the memory overlays his vision, and he turns over in silence. He finally admits to himself that he cannot sleep, staring into the dark with troubled eyes. The door suddenly slides open and a shadowy figure slips into the room, its outline faintly glowing as Nezu lies with his back turned. Startled, he lifts his head and wonders who it is, guessing anxiously that maybe they are just going to the bathroom. Deciding to follow, he sits up and says he will also go out for a bit of air, quietly slipping from his sleeping bag. He wanders out to the pool area and notices with a start that the water has already filled the pool. Hearing a splash, he peers closer and is shocked to realize someone is already in the water. Suzu turns in the pool, wet hair clinging to her shoulders, and calls his name in surprise while he blurts out instructor in disbelief from the doorway. Watching her relaxed back as she swims, Nezu fumes that she made them scrub the pool, yet she is the first to enjoy it. Suzu looks over and gently tells him it is already bedtime and he should go back to sleep, tilting her head when he hesitates. Standing with fists clenched, Nezu demands to know how she can keep acting like a teacher after everything, insisting he is always the only one left feeling this way. His outburst makes her blink, and he adds that Suzuni has always been selfish. From the edge of the pool, he says she never used to be like this, that now she is only aggressive, his words hanging heavily between them. Voice shaking, he says she keeps doing strange things to him and driving him crazy, even blaming her for why he ended up taking her panties. He clenches his trembling fist and insists he is not a pervert, desperately trying to defend his feelings. Finally, he cries that he used to like Suzuni so much but now no longer knows what to think, his emotions spilling into the echoing pool. The intensity of his confession leaves him stunned, heart pounding in his ears as he stares wide-eyed at her. When she steps toward the edge and tells him to wait, she points out that if he comes into the clubroom like that he will just get soaked, while he gasps and stammers out of breath. Then, smiling with soft yet dangerous eyes, Suzu calmly tells him to take it off, all of it, making the invitation unmistakably intimate. As he pants and stutters, his head boils with excitement, yet an uneasy discomfort coils in his figure, narration noting that despite the heat he cannot feel at ease with what is happening.